needs of US corporates are changing, and this affects how global transaction services is run. I'm now joined by Julian Oldale. He's the head of GTS origination for North America at RBS. So, hi Julian, thanks for joining us. Hi. So what is it that you're seeing with your US clients, US corporates? What is it that's changing for them at the moment?
So I think there's been a huge amount of change. My clients do business globally, and I look after their needs, particularly in Europe and where RBS has presence. US clients are certainly looking at how they can take advantage of the regulatory changes in Europe particularly, how they can rationalise more in terms of their structures, their cash management and their treasury, and clearly things like Basel III and how they manage their liquidity. These are things that are front of mind for many US treasurers and how they manage that cash internationally.
So things like Basel III, and also in Europe we have SEPA, the Single European Payments Area.
Yes.
So these issues have been around for a few years, like quite a while, and people have been discussing it. So where are we at now? So what are the main sort of issues with those kind of regulations at the moment?
So if I start with SEPA, I think, you're right, SEPA has been there since the euro really started. The whole aim was to rationalise and have one market. I think that involved a lot of technology change for treasuries, for their ERP systems, whether that's changing their payment formats, setting up direct debits, looking at how their accounts were structured. So that had huge investment both in time and IT resource. So they really focused down on that area and looking at how they could be efficient and get those payments in place. They've gone through that implementation, they've made the changes. Now it's, well, what next? Okay, I've got the same accounts, I've got the same entities, but something else had to change. And I think, the US corporates are now saying, how can I bring together all of my accounts into one location, for example, or how can I reduce the number of bank accounts I have? Because it's a huge burden to manage bank accounts, believe it or not, just opening them, changing signatories, etc. So they're looking and saying, can I get to the place where I have one or two bank accounts for Europe rather than having 30 bank accounts, one in each country? So we're seeing a lot of the corporates asking that question and saying, can I locate all of my Euro accounts, for example, in London or in the Netherlands? So I think that rationalisation and centralisation of accounts is certainly where our clients are looking, whether that's payments on behalf of or collections on behalf of. So a central treasury centre doing payments on behalf of all the subsidiaries or collecting on behalf of subsidiaries. The second part of the question, I think, Basel III, liquidity side of things. Many corporates, again, they're long cash. So how do I get yield on my cash? How do I protect my cash? And being a US corporate, much of that cash is kept offshore in Europe.
So what's the biggest issue then with sort of protecting cash? What's the main thing that
counterparty risk, I think who can they place those funds with? Where is it going to be secure? Where does it fit within investment policies that they've set up as an organisation? And I think, is it yield? I think today yield is, yes, they do want some yield, but security first. And today, I think we all know that yield is a difficult place. I think certainly with the euro rates, I think it's at minus 20 bips overnight at the moment. They're asking, how can we get return on our cash? And with Basel III and the liquidity coverage ratio, etc., it's more harder for banks to give yield on non-operational cash. So they're looking to us for answers on how they can potentially place those funds as well.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about your career. Now, like many people in the transaction banking industry, you started at Citi, which seems to be like the training ground for many execs in the industry. So you've already, had a 20-year-long career so far?
I think it feels.
Yeah, okay. So what would you say then is the biggest change that you've witnessed over that sort of long period? What's the biggest change that you've noticed in the industry?
I think in the industry, technology, it's more and more at the forefront of what clients do and what we do as banks. So I think, 20 years ago, we would have done a lot of things over the telephone or by fax. Online banking is there, host-to-host banking. I think just driving efficiency in the organisations, whether it's in the banking organisation or in the client treasury space. So, a 20-year journey, and I think, you're looking at in everyday life, it's in the forefront of everything we do and everything our clients do, and they're constantly challenging us to, be at the forefront in terms of the provision of services to them, but to make their lives easier in terms of how they interact and interface with banks.
Okay, great.